is great to be with so many who do so much good in our community. Thrilled to join you here today. That sun helps with disposition, particularly when you wake up and it's 37 degrees on the first day of April. I was wondering who was pulling the April Fool's Day joke on us, but it's great to be with friends that are doing so much in our community, and it was great just to get an update on some of the things that are happening right here in our backyard and as far away as Ethiopia. Pretty exciting, and thank you for all that you're doing. So, quick poll. How many of you know that there is a bond package on the ballot in the city of Columbus in May? Raise your hand. Not bad, not bad. That's the most hands I've seen in any room in the last couple of months. So congratulations for being so engaged and on top of things. This will be the only thing on the ballot in May in the city of Columbus. There is not a primary for mayor or for city council, or I believe the Board of Education. There might be other issues in suburban communities or kind of those win-win areas that are city of Columbus but suburban school districts. So I'm doing my part to get out and talk about the bond package and wanted to spend a few minutes talking with you a little bit about it here today. The most important thing I think for you to know about the 2019 voted bond package is it allows us to make investments in our neighborhoods. Many of you have heard me say before that my top three priorities are neighborhoods, 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 because we believe that neighborhoods make for great cities, and we are blessed with some distinctive and great neighborhoods throughout our city. But you only remain great and aspiring to be great by continuing to invest and lift up, particularly parts of our city that haven't shared in our success story. 2/3 of our neighbors are doing better than we've ever done before. But a third of our neighbors, not far from where we get together today, haven't shared in that success story. If I told you this is the fastest growing economy in the Midwest and lowest unemployment in decades and getting national and international attention, it seems like every week, try telling that to our friends in West Franklinton and in Linden and the Hilltop and Marion Franklin, parts of the Near East Side. We can't meet our full potential as a city and as a community and as a region until every family in every neighborhood is sharing in our success. So this 2019 proposal consists of 5 issues, issues 7 through 11. Many of you have information there at your tables. I won't read through those, but I want to share a couple of highlights of them. The 5 issues add up to $1.03 billion. The issues will be ones that you've seen before, particularly as voters. Health, safety, and infrastructure will be issue 7. Recreation and parks, public service, public utilities. And for the first time ever as a city, as part of our bond packages, there'll be an issue titled Neighborhood Development. And what that is specifically is seed funding, kind of startup resources for what I believe is going to be one of the greatest public-private partnerships our community has ever seen around affordable housing. Everyone here knows that we're about 54,000 units short of affordable housing right now in Franklin County. The average 2-bedroom apartment in this county is $812 a month, maybe not necessarily the place you and your family would live, but the average 2-bedroom apartment. And our median income is still hovering around $42,000, $43,000 a year. That alone should get your attention. And then think about adding a third of the population that we're going to grow over the next 20 or 30 years. And when I talk to great mayors around the country who have seen dynamic and dramatic growth in the last few decades, who are struggling to keep up and now catch up for the affordable housing crisis, we have a problem. But if you go to Denver or to Austin or Seattle, they have crises. Their average 2-bedroom apartments may be $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 a month, and their average median income is not being dramatically higher. And what's happened in those cities is that seniors, folks that are making minimum wage and even entry-level positions are being forced out of their neighborhoods. They've made those neighborhoods the great places that they are, but can no longer afford to live there. And that's why this bond package and a big focus of our entire effort as a city is around mixed income neighborhoods. We want folks from all walks of life, in all stages of life, to have a place in every neighborhood in our city, because back to the beginning, great cities are comprised of great mixed income neighborhoods. Let me be clear, this is not a tax increase. It allows us to borrow money for capital projects at a lower interest rate. It saves taxpayer dollars, millions in the long run. The money will be used for the kinds of physical projects you can see happening around you, kind of your scene infrastructure, streetlights, updated fire trucks and fire apparatus, street paving and improvements, new and improved recreation facilities, bike path extensions. The approval of the bond package means we'll be able to continue to provide safe, clean drinking water that keeps our residents healthy, investing in upgrades to our water supply systems and replacing outdated pipes that keeps our water supply safe. And as I had mentioned, the affordability issue, it isn't really, particularly for so many business and nonprofit and community leaders, the face of some of our employers in this community, this isn't just the right thing to do if you believe in mixed income neighborhoods. If we don't continue to invest in affordable housing, it's a threat to our economic development in the future. Right now in San Francisco, if you make $150,000 a year, you're eligible for subsidized housing. Think about that. And at a time when San Francisco has so many great things going on, employers are being challenged by being able to pay their people enough to be able to live there. And so this is why I'm so glad that Columbus 2020 and the Chamber and others are now understanding, what Steve Steinauer and other corporate leaders have been talking about for some time, that affordable housing is directly connected to the economic development and growth of our city in the future. We've already made some incentive policy changes that you probably are aware of. We updated our incentive policy for the first time in 20 years to really encourage and advance our goal around mixed income neighborhoods. And we've heard from developers that are embracing the idea. I tasked our Director of Development, Steve Shoney, to develop a regional plan to close the affordable housing gap that we know already exists. We're now in the process of implementing the Central Ohio Community Land Trust, which will allow our neighborhoods to preserve affordability on property permanently, ensuring we are truly sustaining neighborhoods throughout revitalization. The last thing we want to do is come together and build 54,000 units of affordable housing, and then 10 or 15 years from now have private developers sell that housing and to make money. And here we are, out the resources we've collectively invested in and out the housing in the future. And that's why this housing trust, for those of you that might be familiar with it, I think is a significant improvement and move forward. As I mentioned, this is going to be a regional plan. Affordability isn't just a problem that stops at the city limits. It exists throughout our region. And that's why I'm committed to working with our partners in our surrounding suburban communities like Worthington and Dublin, Gahanna, and Westerville. I just hosted our COMA group, Central Ohio Mayors and City Managers, at the Reeb Center on the south side to talk about this effort. And they're all in for a plan that Steve is working with the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission on, that we're hoping to have later this year, charting out our path in the future around affordability. We know it's going to be restoring and investing in current housing stock. It's going to be building new, but also partnering, getting market rate developers to partner with those that work in the affordable housing business. We're already seeing it because of the incentive policy changes. You have market rate developers saying, we don't understand affordable housing, how it works and what we can do, but Homeport or Homes on the Hill or so many other great partners out there, the WODA and others, we want to work with you to help honor the commitment that we need to make to the city, to this collective community, and we think you're the partner to help us do that. Let me reiterate, the bond package is not a tax increase. It allows Columbus to borrow money from investors by issuing bonds and uses the proceeds to build and maintain roadways, acquire heavy equipment such as fire apparatus, construct police and fire facilities, and so on. And capital expenditures have an impact far beyond the neighborhood in which there are used. So just last year, 2018, the city spent nearly $500 million on capital improvements, neighborhood infrastructure, including road resurfacing, construction on Fire Station 35 and the Far North Police Substation. So just in this county, that $500 million investment last year created $1 billion in household earnings, job creation, and spending resulting from the activities of workers, the purchase of supplies and equipment, and the spending of wages. A great return on investment for our community. So think of it this way: if we repave a road around the Reeb Center on the south side, we know there's a positive impact for that neighborhood and that community. Residents have better transportation and safety. In addition, the work being done by the city on the project maintains the employment of the work crew and provides them with earnings. The goods and services purchased by the city from its suppliers for use in the repaving work, such as asphalt, fuel, and oil for the machinery and output for the suppliers. And those suppliers may make purchases to other companies, hire additional employees, or increase the hours of their current employees. These individuals spend these wages, salaries, and profits on household goods and services of all kinds. So this repaving project that might only seem to help the south side actually benefits the entire city and the region. As a result of the city's capital appropriations just during 2018, we know that Franklin County household earnings from wages, salaries, and self-employment income increased $151 million, and 3,200 jobs within the county were sustained. Those are real, tangible results from our community's collective capital investments. I'd also like to talk very briefly about an additional success we're having in the building of Fire Station 35 on the far east side that was made possible with the last voted bond money. For the first time in the city's history, we signed a community benefits agreement for the construction to guarantee a certain percentage of the workforce on the project was local to the neighborhood, local to the city and Franklin County, and female and minority. We have exceeded our goals. 22%, just thus far in the beginning of the construction of Station 35, 22% of the workforce is from Columbus. Our goal was 20%. 34% of the workforce is from Franklin County. Our goal there was 25%. Female and minority workforce participation is 22%. So the one thing I want you to remember about the voted bond package is that it's a proven job creator, a significant tool for the improvement of our neighborhoods. This is about people, putting people to work, improving the amenities and the quality of life in our neighborhoods, and best of all, we get to invest $1.03 billion into our neighborhoods, into our city, into our future without raising taxes. Not every day that a mayor gets to share that kind of news with the community. That kind of concludes my comments. I'd be happy to take questions.
Yes, sir.
Can you elaborate on the housing element within the new Crew Stadium development? And what proportion of that has been allocated for affordable housing?
Well, this is the tough part of explaining affordable. So with our incentive policy, we now require folks that build that want public-private partnership incentive or infrastructure, that 20% of those units need to be affordable. Now, 80% of average median income is what we define as that affordable. Now, as we know, just quickly do the math, 80% of $43,000 a year average median income still is much more than a lot of our neighbors can afford. So we think the incentive policy is going to help create more, what is probably more loosely defined as workforce housing, that 80% AMI, to really serve people who may be making 20% or 40% or 60% of our average median income. That's where these proceeds, the county is contemplating additional resources into this. Steve Steinauer is really taking the lead in the private sector and rallying support for this regional affordable housing effort, because that's how we're going to go after that 20%, that 40%, 60% AMI. The incentive policy, I think, is going to do a decent job in that 80% AMI, that workforce housing space. The challenge is making the math work for those of you in the financial world. We have to bring additional resources to the table than just the incentive carrot or demand, to make the math work on that 20%, 40%, 60%. People who might be making minimum wage, may be making slightly more than that. There's going to have to be additional support there, both on the rental side and on the home ownership side. Specifically to the Crew, that is their commitment there. That 20% of the residential units that will be built there will be at that 80% AMI level, which again is workforce housing. We may, if we're able to come up with proceeds and a good regional plan, may be able to open up more units there and in other places around the city for folks who may make less. Yes?
Kind of a related question to that. I'm trying to get my arms around what size an affordable house is versus a workforce house. Can you translate that to square feet?
I don't think I can intelligently and accurately. It is probably about amenities, it is about square footage, and obviously it's also going to be about location. So we don't just want more affordable housing in neighborhoods that have an overwhelming majority of market rate housing available. We also want more market rate housing in our opportunity neighborhoods, where a third of our neighbors currently live, that really haven't seen this huge boom in success that the rest of the city has seen. So I want market rate housing in Linden and the Hilltop and Marion Franklin and the Near East Side, but I also want affordable housing in Clintonville and Northwest Columbus and in the German Village and in Marion Village. So, I mean, it is going to be, and that's why this regional approach is going to be so important. With respect to square footage, my guess is you are going to be contemplating smaller places to make them more affordable, but I think they're also going to be amenities as well as location probably will have something to do with what those affordable housing units look like. Yes?
How is this bond package being received by the public? Is it projected to pass?
I think the response has been very good. I think most of our voters, we have these issues on the ballot every 3 or 4 years. So most of the folks that have been here, that have voted on these issues for a long period of time, kind of know how this works. Now, there are 50,000 people that moved to our region last year, 25,000 inside the city of Columbus. We're going to see that growth plus, and that's how we're going to grow from 900,000 people in the city today to 1.4, 1.5 million. And the region is going to go from 2 million to 3 million over the next 30 years. So there are new people coming into Columbus every day. So that's part of our educational outreach. The folks, the last presidential election, 72% of the public, the registered voters voted. We may be as low as 5% in May. And so trying to get out there and talk about this, engage people and talk about what this means to the future of our city and community. We have our work cut out for us. We don't have a presidential high-profile gubernatorial race driving interest and turnout. So we have our work cut out for us. We'd love to have 72% of the voters weigh in on this, but we're probably looking at 5, 6, 7%. These issues have passed with overwhelming support in the past. We don't take anything for granted. I was out for about 6 hours yesterday talking about this, and have neighborhood meetups tomorrow in Driving Park. I think I have another one in the Hilltop later this week. We're going to 2 or 3 of these events a week. Yes, sir.
Yes, I'd like to change direction just a moment.
Sure.
Could you give an update on where we are on the event tax, or whatever you want to call it, and what really is going to happen with the proceeds?
I don't know where. My understanding is that they're looking at potentially circulating petitions to change the charter, not necessarily repeal the ticket tax that was put in for additional arts funding late last year. I believe that's where we are. I don't want to give you bad information. I don't know how quickly that would be on the ballot. Some of the initial readings of that are a little concerning because the fear is the language that is being contemplated and being circulated for signatures may restrict the city's ability to rent out North Bank Park for weddings and other things. The language has been that the city cannot charge anything for any public parcel that they own or facility, which may create some real issues because anybody that's tried to rent North Bank or Whetstone or Westgate or generally those things are booked up a year in advance. So if that takes away our ability to do that, that could create some challenges and issues. But that's about the extent I know. I have not seen the language. I think the city attorney's office and folks are reviewing it, and I'm not sure if they're actually, the opponents of this are out actually circulating or not, but the earliest it would appear would be in November or potentially next May. Where the ticket tax is going to go, I think was the other part of your question, the city funds with a percentage of the bed tax the work of the Greater Columbus Arts Council, GCAC, and they would be kind of the primary advisor, fiduciary, guide on where this money is invested into arts organizations in the community. Yes?
Mayor Ginther, I have 2 questions for you. The first being to please define affordable housing in terms financially, some kind of range. But more importantly, when you put the programs into place and you're going to be producing sidewalks and other construction forms within each of these neighborhoods, how do you ensure employment of the local people within those projects, within those neighborhoods?
Great questions. The way that first, the community benefits agreement is this new tool I was talking about. That's how we are hoping to ensure not just that people are working on the projects, but our hope is that young people, particularly opportunity youth, when you think of the fact that right now in this county there are 20,500 people between the ages of 14 and 24 that are not enrolled in any school, any academic program, and are not working. Think about that for just a second. 20,500 in this county that are just out there. And so is this an opportunity through these community benefits agreements that open up a ladder of access to apprenticeship? We've hosted a number of different events and working with Pegeen at Columbus City Schools to continue to expose our young people to incredible careers where they can earn associate's degrees while they're in apprenticeship programs, being paid to be in an apprenticeship program, not have to borrow any money, come out of that program making a living wage, and not take an associate's degree and not having to borrow any money. So those community benefits agreements will be a big part of that. And then the first part I'm trying to remember the first question.
But affordable housing?
Oh, affordable housing. Yeah, it gets back to the AMI. So if the average median income was, let's say, $44,000 a year in the county, 80% of that AMI is that workforce housing space. And we think we can make some significant progress there with our incentives. The way we reach people who are making, $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 a year is through this regional affordable housing effort. And so that is going to probably require significant investment from the private sector. This $50 million that we've got on the ballot, issue 11, will kind of be the seed funding for that regional plan and effort that Director Shoney and Morpsey is working on now with our regional partners. And our expectation is that the private sector will step up to help provide that as well. That's how we reach those people making $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 a year, to make sure they're in a safe, affordable housing.
I guess to extend that one further, is there the opportunity to combine and maybe do a partnership with Habitat for Humanity, who has been experienced in being able to do this and really expand on their sense of
Absolutely. I think all of our affordable housing players are going to be involved in this. Homeport, Habitat for Humanity, Homes on the Hill, WODA Group, other folks, NRP, that focus on affordable housing. We've got great affordable housing developers in this community, and obviously I think our private sector development community is one of the best in the country. All those folks working together, because our private sector market rate developers also understand the threat that a lack of affordable housing presents to their future. And so you have other great market rate private sector developers that are keenly interested in this, because they know they're going to benefit from it in the long haul as well. One more question? All right. Yes, sir. Only because he had his hand up longer. I'll catch you on the way out.
Seems to me like we have more people panhandling, begging on the streets of Columbus than I've ever seen before. Do you have any plans to do anything about that?
It is challenging. We have had things in place in the past, and for the lawyers in the room that follow these types of things with case law and limits on free speech, and so our police officers are somewhat limited in what they can do with panhandlers. We've been working with our special improvement districts, ambassadors in the short north and downtown as well. What we're continuing to try to do is get as many folks off the street into supportive housing with opportunities to work and to become independent and sustainable. There are some folks, though, that have made the choice. They may be folks with huge mental health issues, addiction issues, others, and some that have just chosen to live off the land. And so I don't have an easy answer for you on that. We're not going to round them up and lock them up. That is no longer legal. And so how do we go about dealing with it in a way that makes sure that we're protecting our business interests, our quality of life, and to make sure that folks feel safe and welcome in neighborhoods throughout the community. So we're going to continue working with our ambassadors, our SIDS, hiring outreach workers with some of our nonprofit providers that we work with in the community to get folks off the street, in housing, and back to work. But there are no easy answers. Thank you.
Mayor Ginther, thank you so much for gracing us today with the updates on the city, our great city of Columbus. Thank you for taking on many of the challenges and problems in your public service work, and to leading the way in making Columbus even a better tomorrow for all those whose needs need to be served today, and with the growth we're expected in this city. Thank you for taking them on so much today. Thank you for coming. With that, please be the inspiration. See you next week.